Notre-Dame de la Garde translates to Our Lady of the Guard. The church is known locally as the Good Mother, as she is seen as the protector of the local people, especially sailors. The first church on the hill was built in 1214, and then later, in 1516, it became a fortress when Francis I decided that there needed to be some better defenses for the local Marseille city. The fortress incorporated the church, but interestingly, the church remained open to the public, which is the only known example of a military fortress sharing space with a public chapel. Access to the church and the fortress itself was controlled by a drawbridge, which would be raised every night. That drawbridge and the raising of it is still a practice that continues today. During the French Revolution, the church was turned into a prison, but in 1795 it was leased out by a local Marseille sailor and merchant who had been charged during the revolution for crimes against the Republic, but he was spared the guillotine. So he leased the church maybe as gratitude for escaping the guillotine, and he fought to reopen it to the public, which happened in 1807. In 1853, construction on the current buildings began, and they completely integrated the former fortress walls. The fort was demilitarized in 1933, but unfortunately Marseille fell under Nazi occupation in the 1940s. There was a big push to liberate the basilica from Nazi occupation on August 25, 1944, during the Battle for Marseille. The church still has damage from gunfire and shrapnel from this confrontation. The Abbaye Saint-Victor is one of the oldest sites in Marseille. The saint that the abbey is named for, Saint Victor, was murdered on this location by the Romans in 302. A monastery was placed there in the early 5th century, and the first church was built there in 440. The church was destroyed by foreign invaders in the 11th century, but later rebuilt. When the local abbot was made pope in 1361, he put a lot of money and effort into enlarging the church into the building that we see today and building high walls around it. It became one of the most powerful and prestigious places of worship in southern France. Marseille's Cathédrale de La Major was built between 1852 and 1896. Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, or Napoleon III, laid down the first foundation stone in 1852. The church was built on the site where churches in Marseille have been built since the 5th century, and in fact, there's an older chapel located just next to it, which dates back to the 12th century. The two buildings are now known as the New Major and the Old Major.